Join us today on the Final Hour podcast as we talk about the nation of Iran slowly but surely building up troops on the northern and southern borders of Israel, and it seems as if no one's paying attention.
We interrupt your program to issue a severe warning for an impending emergency making its way to your area. We urge you to be watchmen of the times and to be prepared with the essential knowledge and supplies for the wake of the final hour.
Welcome to the Final Hour podcast, coming to you from the original Living Word Christian Center out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. My name is Jim Hammond, and
I'm Lonaiah Farrell.
I'm John Gapp.
And
what? I jumped on that too soon?
Yeah, he said and.
John was
It's okay. John's really excited to be here.
We have a couple explanations for you.
Yeah.
Why we apologize for not being able to go live. On Friday, we were at the time being blocked by YouTube, which is a culmination of having episode 55 yanked off the air, and we were given a warning.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at. Remember,
A swat on
if
the
we
wrist.
ever do disappear off YouTube, you can get us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Rumble. And so we're going to forego Josiah.
Let's get ready to rumble.
Don't say it, because then we can get demonetized.
We left off on halfway through the Josiah story, but we may come back to that. We may not.
We'll see.
First of all,
Only time will tell.
we need to talk about Lonaiah came into the office today. Extremely bad mood.
I was in a very bad mood.
So can you tell us why
Well, after
you're not doing well
after
today?
thinking about why I was in a bad mood, John asked, "Why were you in a bad mood?" I went to Target, you guys.
Very poignant question.
It was because there's
There could
reasons.
be many things.
There could be many things, but you know what started it today, guys?
Because she's such a peaceful person in the first place.
I am
Yes, very.
loving and kind, and
I have wonderful
peaceful.
experiences working.
She has a
with
lot of
Lonaiah.
common sense.
Anyways, you guys, I went to Target to get Easter candy at 8 a.m. this morning. They were out of everything except
Which
jelly
Target?
beans. Plymouth.
Which Plymouth?
Plymouth.
The one like Rockford Road?
Yes. My mom's
You
Target.
should have
We
gone over
label
to
them all
Medina.
as-
You should have gone over to Medina.
That
down
is a
50.
haul, John. 8 a.m. I need to be
It's
work
like-
at 8:30. That's why I was late.
7 minutes
And
away.
not only that,
Tops.
but Starbucks messed up my drink and
The whole
And people writing in, and no offense about Starbucks. Well, I mean, if you're gonna stop getting Starbucks drinks, then you need to stop buying from Procter and Gamble. There's a lot of demon companies out there, right? You
There
know what I'm
are.
saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of progressive companies. You need to stop buying from Dayton's. Would you
Dayton's.
call? Yeah, is Dayton's gone?
Yes.
Are they gone?
I think it's like Nordstrom now.
Didn't
But can you get-
Target. I don't think you should
I
go
went
to Target anymore.
Well, Target, you better
Right.
get that Easter
So,
candy for the weekend of Easter
you
and
can't
have it
go
stocked.
anywhere. You can't go anywhere.
I was
you can't
wondering-
buy anything if you're going to take that approach, right?
Maybe we
So-
should stop buying Easter candy and start buying Resurrection Sunday candy. That's-
You know what, John? I just want a Cadbury eggs, okay?
Okay.
How hard is it to find Cadbury cream eggs or the little Cadbury mini eggs that they've literally had since Valentine's Day?
2 or 3
And
days
Whopper
before
eggs.
Easter, it's very hard.
Well, you know what's funny? I walked by my Target
Yeah.
a few times. I'm like, oh, look at all that candy. I'm good. Every time. I probably go to Target
Foolish
like every
virgin.
other day. Yeah.
You foolish.
And then today I was like, criminy. It was me and 4 other parents.
Yeah.
And I looked at this lady. I'm like, seriously? She's like, my kids are going to be so mad.
That's why I have a planning wife. She was like a month ago. She was like,
Way to go,
"Ooh,
Liz."
We gotta get candy now." I'm like, "What? We have like four
But see,
weeks."
I bought candy.
here she is
And we ate it. My
winning.
kids ate it. Wrigley, he went like straight up ham on that Easter egg candy.
I'd rather
like a month
have
ago.
I'd rather have hot dogs and hamburgers and Doritos.
You know
than
what,
do
Jim?
those.
One of the live questions that we didn't get to ask was, what is Jim's Portillo's
Portillo's
order?
order 3 chili cheese dogs, cheeseburger with everything on it, and a large onion rings and some fries for my dog.
That's one order for his
big boy
dog.
order.
And one
That's
other
a big
question.
boy order right there.
We can't answer all those questions we're going to do on live, but a guy said, "Hey, if you said that if you don't obey the laws of the land, you're technically breaking the Old Testament law." Yes, but he said, what if the government starts to put in laws that break those laws?
Yeah.
No, it's when the government oversteps and starts breaking the laws of God is when you don't obey the laws of the land.
Absolutely.
Okay.
God's law is much higher.
So, and
That's correct, John.
Thank you.
And I had the honor of taking a tour to Israel with Pastor John Hagee, his wife, Diana. 15. First of all, I have to say, Jerry is our producer.
Oh, yeah.
Yay, Jerry.
We can't do without Jerry.
Hi.
Jerry's money.
It's
You
me.
can't do without Jerry.
No, I can't.
Dupree.
No, I can't. And so, Jerry, no sound effects for
He
Jerry
said
today?
hi, and then I did.
Okay.
Then I
Got a couple
answered
of-
back, hi, it's me.
Hello.
It's a song,
You just
actually.
keep drinking that coffee, Lonaiah.
Remember?
Me you're looking for.
So I was in
No.
Israel with the Hagees, 15 rabbis, 15 pastors. It was a culmination of a program called the Rabbi Scheinberg Fellowship. And it was in honor of Pastor Hagee's relationship with this rabbi by the name of Rabbi Scheinberg, whose son, who is now a rabbi, was on that tour. Rabbi Scheinberg has deceased, right? But the program started a year ago in March 2022. The main thrust of the program was each pastor was paired with a rabbi, and they spent a year studying together. And we did multiple Zoom calls with Pastor Hagee. And in my case, the rabbi I was paired with was Rabbi Alon Sharon, who many of you might know. He's been Living Word's chief advisor on Jewish relations for the last 25 years.
I really like Alon.
And so I did, I did the
Rabbi.
Jewish
Rabbi
Memorial Day. I did different things. I learned a lot about the way I know everything about their government.
Didn't you go to like a dinner at their house for Christmas?
Yeah, we did Shabbat.
Yeah, Shabbat.
Shabbat dinner. He's a good friend. He was on the tour. The tour lasted 10 days. It would start at 8 in the morning, go to 10:30 every night. It was the most condensed. I did more on that tour than I've ever done. One thing I want to talk about today is while on that tour, we were able to tour the Golan Heights, and you'll be up there. All right, if you go on the tour, on the Final Hour Podcast tour, we go up to the Golan Heights to a place called the Valley of Tears, and we look over into the Syrian border, and it's a famous battle site from the Yom Kippur War in '73.
Oh, wow.
But what I got to see was the Golan Heights border with Syria is 45 miles, and we took jeeps. We jumped in. What's that? A Defender 90?
My dream car.
You know those
Sweet.
those
I
UN
love them.
Yeah.
those UN looking jeeps.
Yeah.
But this was the Israelis bringing us in these jeeps, and we toured probably 30 of the 45 miles, and along the way we stopped. It was in an abandoned building that the Syrians used as their military headquarters before the 1967 Six-Day War, and we had like a briefing. It was like a military type briefing.
Interesting.
Just to remind you, Israel took the Golan Heights from Syria in the Six-Day War in '67, and it's very disputed. Remember, Obama said they should give it back.
Oh, yeah.
The problem is when Syria owned the Golan Heights, they would sit above the city of Tiberias, which is on the Galilee, and bomb. Hit Israel with artillery. It's just
So
it's really
strategically,
tactical land that the Israels had to have, and they took it in the '67 war. So right outside that building, we get a briefing, a detailed briefing on what the Israelis are dealing with on the Syrian border in regards to Iran and the Russians. And I just want to fill you in on some things that I did not know. These, as I said, these jeeps ran all across the Israeli defense line, moving north to south on the Golan Heights border. you could say east to west. It's like this. You're kind of doing this. And we got a close-up look of the positioning of all the Israeli tanks, what they're looking at, looking over into Syria. It was amazing. The Golan Heights, I'm trying to give you a picture of this, is just full of agriculture. Combination of apple orchards. They're growing everything from apples. They have multiple vineyards. Israeli wine is some of the most famous wine in the world right now. They grow, those truffles, those mushrooms, those really expensive mushrooms. They grow everything up there with civilians cultivating it.
Isn't it interesting that, all of the pieces that you see on Israel always looks like desert, and rocks and cliffs.
Yeah,
but Israel is not obviously just that.
For the first time, it was lush. It was green. I've never seen it like that. And they'd had a lot of rain.
Awesome.
It rained the whole time we were there. We were in the rain the whole time. 55 degrees and rain. Thank God I was wearing 2 coats. I was the warmest person there.
There's a picture of Jim that Alon took of him, and he just looked done. And I was like, are you done? He's like, it was raining. It was 55 degrees.
Mad.
I'm like, he was mad.
I was
so
mad.
Funny.
And everyone's got umbrellas, and I didn't have an umbrella, and I just didn't care. My hair was soaking wet, and I just stood there. I stood there, and I was angry. But I learned a lot.
Kind of like I was this morning at Target.
Because of the Easter eggs. Okay, or the Cadbury eggs.
Yes.
All right. Those things are good.
They're so good.
I prefer the caramel.
You guys, those are good too. But just really quick, you should freeze those Cadbury cream eggs. Oh, yeah. Okay, anyways.
Lonaiah's got all kinds of great ideas like that.
Freeze your puppy chow too.
By the way,
you were going to say freeze your puppy, and that's like
puppy chow.
Terrible idea.
She's basically a professional baker.
My wife only likes frozen puppy chow. Yeah.
She can bake anything. She bakes amazing stuff. She could have her own bakery.
Maybe
honestly.
one day.
But the civilians are cultivating all this land in the Golan Heights, but at the same time, there's a really strong military presence. All right, being the Israelis have endured 2 different attacks by the Syrians in 67 and 73. And they won it in 67. The Syrians attacked again on 73, a surprise attack that was not in the end successful. It's a beautiful area, very green, very lush. The rocks and the desert look is Samaria and Judea down more farther to the south. It always has that look.
Yeah.
And they're growing vineyards in those rocky areas.
Wow. Cool.
You can see many mountains in the distance in the Golan Heights. Giving you a picture. So we're taking this Jeep tour. You're literally taking these Jeeps through anti-tank ditches to repel from any kind of a tank attack over the Syrian border. And the next thing you know, you're in a vineyard. And then the next thing you know, there's a minefield from 67, 73. That they just decided not to dig up. They just
don't go there.
They barbed wired it off. Barbed wired it. Those are all over the place. It's very interesting terrain. I've been on like I said, 7 times I've been on the Syrian border before this time, but never. We won't get to see what I saw. We'll go to the Valley of Tears, which is very interesting.
So we shouldn't say, is this what you're talking about on the podcast?
No, don't
Jim?
say that. Don't say that. Because
is this it?
But.
Are we there yet?
Where we were in the Valley of Tears, where you will be if you go on the Final Hour podcast tour, we saw an artillery battle.
Yeah, we did.
Between the jihadist group Al-Shabaab and a group called the Druze. And so it's a historic place that we go called the Valley of Tears. I've never been able to see Golan Heights like this, though. And this Israeli guide, obviously ex-military, he lives in the Golan Heights. He opens the briefing telling us that the Syrian border, that very border that we're talking about, since 1973, yes, highly militarized, highly intense, but it was the quietest border they had. It was quieter than the Lebanese border, quieter than down there on Egypt and the Gaza Strip.
Yeah.
In the south.
Yeah.
And when it was Syria, it was the easiest, quietest border. But Syria is not Syria anymore. Syria is Iran. All right? And the border of Syria was the quietest until 2011. It was quieter than the other borders. The Lebanon, you have 50,000 Hezbollah troops, highly trained troops that have sworn to the destruction of Israel. That is an Iranian militia terrorist group. And we'll talk about that in coming weeks. But today we're talking about Syria and the threats the Israelis are facing in Syria. So starting in 2011, it went from the Israelis dealing with the Syrian army and an army of the people of Syria that was mostly a Sunni Muslim army, all right? And the Israelis knew the Syrians very, very well. They defeated them twice. But in 2011, when the Syrian civil war starts, it went from dealing with the Syrian army they knew so well to suddenly the Israelis are dealing with 54 different militias.
Wow.
All right? All these militias had different goals and different priorities, all armed, all dangerous, all hostile, all fighting each other. And these 54 militias, some of them, probably 1/3 of them, were jihadists. All right?
Yeah.
Another large group of them were freedom fighters fighting the Syrian army, all right? Fighting for their freedom against the government of Syria, all right? But they were not allies of Israel. Some of these militias were really just trying to protect their own villages, all right? And I'm just trying to give you a general breakdown. It was like the Wild West. You had the U.S. in there. You had the Russians in there. And by 2014, the Russians are in there. In 2018, the Syrian army, with the help of the Russian Air Force and Iranian militias, was able to recapture all this land, all right, just north of the Golan Heights on the Israeli border. And they gave all these militias that are fighting each other, they gave them 3 choices, all right? They said you can keep fighting, but you're fighting the Syrian army, you're fighting the Russian Air Force, you're fighting the Iranian militias, okay? If you surrender, you have to go into the Syrian army, all right? Or we can put you somewhere else. We can displace you and replace you somewhere else, right? And these are people that have lived in that part of the world in southern Syria all their lives, and their families and their grandparents and all that. And, you know, I hope that you're interested in this, but you need to understand how all this happened. We talk about the Syrian civil war. Syria is run by President Assad, who is a very evil dictator, very cruel, inherited his control of the country from his father, who was just as evil, just as cruel, and probably a little smarter. The father was smarter than his son, all right? The son was in power in 2011, still in power. Really now with the situation with the Iranians and the Russians, he's just a figurehead, all right? The Syrian war started without any connection to Iran. The Syrian civil war started in 2011 because the Syrian people took to the streets because the government of Syria could not provide, in the words of the Israelis, work, bread, or hope. So they take to the streets. The Syrian people started to riot. When you're struggling on a daily basis, how are you going to feed your family today? It's not about next week. It's a daily thing. How are you going to feed your family? That is the point where people start to rise up. All right. And that's what the Syrian people did in 2011. The Syrian people were in the streets in April of 2011. They were chanting in Arabic. The people want to bring down the regime. All right. And that's what they were chanting. And Assad, the president of Syria, responds by using his army. They were killing these people. They're killing them with bullets and heavy military force response. It's crazy to think that was 12 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, that feels like that was like 3 years ago. But this is so religious. It's a religious thing. The religious players involved, okay? Most of the Syrian army was Sunni Muslim, right? They were 75% Sunni Muslims, the Syrian army, okay? The rest, 2%, were Shiite Muslims. Then you had Druze, Christians, multiple other things made out the Syrian army. But the crazy thing about it is at the top of the Syrian, Assad and all his generals, the people running the country, are neither. There's something called Alawite. What is an Alawite? An Alawite is not exactly a Muslim. Alawites celebrate Christmas, Easter. They celebrate a few Muslim holidays. They drink wine in the ritual ceremonies and recognize Jesus as the Messiah. But trust me, that doesn't mean these guys are great guys. They're bad guys. And I've heard it said the Syrian regime over there are the most effective torturers in the world. They're the best at it. And I think the Israelis would probably know that. And the Alawites, Assad and his generals in power, and the high-ranking government officials over there, okay, with these guys in charge, at least it was stable.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
There was stability. Did they support terrorism? Yes. Did they bring stability with a fist using military force? Yes. But at least it was stable. So Assad and his Alawite generals are giving orders to the mostly Sunni army to shoot and kill the mostly Sunni civilian population. All right? Yeah. So this is where it all starts. And back in 2011. So many times these Sunni Syrian troops are shooting and killing, being ordered to kill their parents, people from their neighborhood, people from their villages, someone from the same tribe. They're really split out into tribes. And this was a mistake by Mossad, because this turned into a civil war because those Syrian troops that were Sunni, all right, they defected. They defected to a whole other side. But the problem was it didn't form another side. It formed a bunch of different sides, a bunch of different militias, some fighting each other, with different rebels with different goals. You had people fighting for freedom, people just fighting to protect their tribe, and you had people fighting for Allah that joined the jihad, all right?
Yeah.
So remember, if we go back to the Civil War is going on, I remember I told you in 2018, down in the Golan Heights, the Syrian army wins back the territory with the help of the Russian Air Force. And interestingly enough, the Shiite Iranian proxy militias was able to win that territory just north of the Golan Heights. And they gave them three choices: keep fighting and you're going to die, surrender, join the Syrian army, okay? Or your third choice is complete relocation. So they took all those fighters out of there, right? And they sent them up to northern Syria, okay? Northern Syria. And they relocated them.
So that was really their only choice.
Yeah, that was it.
Right.
To Idlib. That's way up on the Turkish border.
Yeah.
2 days away if you're driving. And it's interesting. It's interesting enough that that's where the earthquake hit, in Idlib, Syria.
Yeah.
Northern Syria, up by the northern part of southern part of Turkey.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Now, this Syrian civil war displaced 3 million Muslim Sunnis. All right? And just a side note, do you know what ISIS is? ISIS was Sunni, completely Sunni.
Right.
All right? So that makes it interesting, right?
Well, I read that 85 to 90% of Muslims are Sunni Muslims.
At one point, at one time.
That's what Wikipedia says today.
Right. But Iran is changing that.
Right, of course.
Okay? And so when Saddam Hussein went down, he was Sunni, and he had persecuted the Shiites.
Right.
Well, what happens, right? It flipped. The Shiites got control, started to persecute the Sunnis who had persecuted them in Iraq all those years, and hence you get ISIS, right?
Yeah.
So you had ISIS over there too. Yeah. And so the Israelis told us that when we were there, you just had 20 trucks with supplies. There's no supplies going in to the area the earthquake hit in Syria. Why? A total of 56 trucks of supplies have tried to go in there. 36 from Turkey, 20 from the south. And it was stolen by Shiite Iranian militias. So you can't get supplies into the area where Syria was hit with the earthquake. So that's just a little bit of history.
Yeah.
And in a way, the Israelis were saying it was much easier when they were dealing with Syria and Syria alone,
right,
as an army, as a power, as a Syrian air force.
Sure.
The Syrian civil war changed everything.
Wow.
Much simpler.
Yes.
That's crazy.
And you can see, even from the Israeli border, when you look over into Syria, you can see a mosque with a green dome. And the Israeli guide that was briefing us alludes to the mosque. And he also named the village that the mosque was in. And he said before the Syrian civil war, there were 200 families in that village. He said now the village is being rebuilt. It's only got 6 families. But those families are not part of the original 200. They're from somewhere else, all right? They brought in Shiite families, all right?
Wow.
Now in this mosque, the Israelis notice, I should say the Israelis that can speak Arabic, a different type of Muslim prayer was called out over the loudspeaker right away. This was just right over the border.
That's interesting.
Yeah. This is how the prayer opened, all right? And obviously in a different language. I'm translating it. You know how the speaker goes out, right? Minneapolis has that. Huh? Yes. Allah is great.
Like
I'm testifying there's no God besides Allah. I'm testifying Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. Here's the key line. I'm testifying that Ali was loyal to Allah. That last sentence, I'm testifying Ali was loyal to Allah, what was a phrase the Israeli intelligence had not heard coming from the prayers in Syria over the loudspeakers ever before.
Wow.
And so what does that phrase mean? Ali was loyal to Allah. Ali was the son-in-law of Muhammad, all right? The founder of Islam. The founder of the Shiite Muslims, if your prayers are stating Ali was the founder of the Shiite Muslims.
Yep.
And if you're stating the phrase, Ali is loyal to Allah, what that was suddenly telling the Israelis is basically Syria is not Sunni Muslim.
Right.
They are Shiite Muslim, which is a big deal.
Because just one phrase and they found all that.
Yeah.
Because the real difference between Sunni and Shia is the Sunnis say that Muhammad was that prophet, and then it was fine to it was good enough to obey the Quran and the tradition that Muhammad established. But the Shiites, they say that they need to have a part of Muhammad's bloodline to be ahead of the Muslims.
Well, that's a great point because the phrase Ali was loyal to Muhammad is complicated, but the Israelis explain to us that is a Shiite provocation against the Sunnis. And what the Israelis are asking is what is giving the Shiite Muslims, right, the confidence to give these provocative religious statements against the Sunnis in Syria, which has always been a 75% Sunni country. Remember, Iran is Shiite. The Ayatollah Khomeini is a Shiite, all right? So what did give the Shiites this kind of confidence to switch to prayers in the mosques, which is a controversial thing. It's a provocative thing. I'm telling you in detail what is going on in Syria on the northern border of Israel. It's going to take a couple of weeks to explain all this. But Syria, before the Syrian war, was a 22 million person country. Okay? 74% of those 22 million people were Muslim Sunnis. All right? The Shiite Muslims only carried 2% of the population before the civil war.
Wow.
Crazy.
What we're talking about in Syria is Iran is changing the country of Syria literally from the ground up, changing the dynamic between the Shiite and the Sunni Muslims. In 79, when the Ayatollah Khomeini, 1979, landed in an Air France Airlines planes at the airport of Tehran, Iran. And at that point, everything in the Middle East changed. Everything changed at that point. The Ayatollah Khomeini out of Iran is the reason for all that we're talking about. The Ayatollah Khomeini announced a revolution in Iran, and what that did, that gave the Shiite Muslims a resurrection, a total resurrection. The Sunnis took the leadership of Islam, of the Islamic world, from the Shiite Muslims in 680 A.D. The Sunnis massacred the descendants of Ali in 680 A.D. and the grandsons of Muhammad that were supposed to lead Islam. And that's what the Shiites say the Sunni Muslims did. For 1,400 years, 85% of the Muslims in the Middle East were Sunni. Very good, Lonaiah. And only 12% were Shiite. For 1,400 years, Iran's number one goal when the Ayatollah Khomeini took control of the nation of Iran through revolution in 1979 was to change those figures that I just gave you. You got to give Iran credit. They have patience and they know how to exploit opportunities. And the first opportunity Iran created was in Lebanon,
which
is right next to Syria on the very northern border of Israel. That's the country. I have a lot to say about Lebanon, but that's for future weeks.
Sure.
And what's going on and what the Iranians have done in Lebanon. They're the reason for all this. Basically, what they've got is an army of 50,000 Hezbollah troops in Lebanon. Well-trained troops. 7,000 of those troops are sitting right on the Israeli border. We're touring tunnels. They had been trying to tunnel through to Israel to attack them from Lebanon, the Hezbollah. And the Hezbollah were taking pictures of us. I mean, Lonaiah saw the pictures. We were taking pictures of him, and he was taking pictures of us, standing on the other side of the fence. And these are very well-trained troops, Shiite Muslims. Hezbollah is a proxy militia, proxy army. It's an army. All right, of Iran. But that's the Lebanon story. We're talking about Syria. We'll get to Lebanon. Iran started on Lebanon in the 80s, in the early 80s. And it took them, look where we are 40 years later.
Right.
They've got a 50,000 person army. And so Hezbollah is a terrorist army. Okay. Well, one thing about the huge Sunni obstacle for the Shiites was the removal of Saddam Hussein.
Right.
Okay. That was big. You know, the U.S., I just don't think we should ever been fooling around over there, honestly.
Yeah.
Because that rocked everything.
Yeah. It opened up some doors for the people we don't want in charge.
At least you had Saddam checking the Ayatollah Khomeini with a strong military. Remember Iran and Iraq were at war for 8 years? Like 500,000 troops died over there? Just killing each other, right? So why did we have to fool with that? Right? We think, right, that we're going to come over there, you know, after 9/11, and it ruined everything. All right. When you took out Saddam, and yes, he was awful, right? But at least it was stable.
Right.
Okay. And the Syrian civil war that began in 2011 was a creation of a major opportunity for Iran, and Iran jumped on it.
Yeah.
At this point, Iran is so entrenched in Syria, not only at a military level, and this is what shocked me. I talked about the one mosque that we're talking about.
One?
That they could point to. When we go to the Valley of Tears, don't ask me where the mosque is. Okay?
Where's the green dome, Jim?
But the Israelites point out that
I'll
Iran.
wait till she does it, and then I'll ask afterwards.
The Israelis point out that Iran has 50 of those, more than one every mile of the border. Gee, I wonder why. Okay, that's one every mile if you're looking at it. Okay, not just 50 mosques. They have 200 religious centers.
They're probably really peaceful, and there's definitely no strategic value to those specific mosques.
None.
That's where they fight from. They fight from these.
You're getting there.
There's 200 religious centers.
Reading between the lines there.
Along and around the border, down there on the Syrian side to convert people to Shiite Muslim religion. They have bought up over what the Israelis called 8,000 properties in Syria. The government of Iran owns. Iran is now controlling 20% of Syria's capital, Damascus. 20% of the streets in Damascus have been changed from Arabic to Farsi, right? That's Syrian to Iranian. Right, the officers of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, right, highly trained officers, real military Iranian guys, celebrate holidays right over the Israeli border. The Iranians are not just building mosques and religious centers. They're building universities, they're building clinics, and they're building hospitals. They're currently renovating 250 Syrian schools on the border. They're completely changing the Syrian culture from the bottom up, and they're very patient. And they've started to teach Farsi in the Syrian schools instead of Arabic, and the Persian culture instead of Syrian history, Persian history. So they're changing the country completely. The Israelis are saying Iran is taking over Syria from the bottom up, and the Israelis are saying it's much harder to stop. They can bomb all the truckloads of missiles because they're constantly, and we'll talk about this next week, bringing in weapons, missiles high level military, laser guided, launch from the ground type missiles.
Yeah.
They can kill all the Iranian militia troops they want. The Israelis are saying, but the mosques and the schools and the hospitals that are being built down all along that border,
Right.
they're going to use to fight from.
Right. And then the press will say, I can't believe that
They bombed the school.
They bombed the school.
They bombed the school.
Yeah.
But the Israelis are saying they really do. They'll put kids in that school.
Right.
And then in that school, the Israelis will know, well, gee, there's 3 missile launchers in the school.
Right.
2 squads of Iranian Revolutionary Guard, two Iranian Revolutionary Guard officers overseeing 2 squads of militia troops, but the Israelis can't bomb the school while there's kids in the school. And that's what
the world stage would be up in an uproar, and
it happens all the time.
All the time.
So this is just the beginning of this. I mean, we'll talk about this more next week about what's going on in Syria. But I also want to get to Lebanon. I don't know if that's next week or the week after. These countries that are on the northern border of Israel, because I have a lot of details, a lot of explanations that were explained to me that I did not know. I thought I knew a lot and realized I didn't know hardly anything. And so I simply am relaying that information to you. Final Hour Podcast, our trusted, loyal viewers and listeners. Thank you so much. And I just remind you, when you look at the opening, I've set a watchman on your walls, Jerusalem, who will never hold their peace day and night. You are his servants. And by your prayers, put the Lord in remembrance of his promises. And don't keep silent. Keep not silent. You have to watch from a perspective of the Israelis, of Jerusalem.
Right.
Watch. When it says watch from the walls of Jerusalem, right? That's simply what we're doing.
Yeah.
And so we've got a couple weeks on this subject. Maybe we go back to Josiah after that. But I feel like I got to get this out while it's like fresh on my mind. Multiple military briefings, all kinds of people with the different members of their government, from Netanyahu's number 5 to his number 15. And by the way, there was Israel, some point we'll get to that. There was 250,000 protesters on the streets. It was in chaos because of some moves Netanyahu is making. And I think you would agree, possibly, that once you get to know that it's a very complicated situation, that you would agree with the Israeli people. And actually it was dangerous because there was elements of the Air Force that refused to fly and protest. They shut down the airport while we were there. I didn't think I was going to get out. And the reservists in the Army, some reservists were protesting, not reporting for duty. So
interesting.
You've got that was going on. It's quieted now a little bit, but the issues are still on the table, and maybe we'll get into that. Maybe we won't. But it was interesting, and we're looking forward to the Final Hour Podcast tour.
Yes.
November 27th through December 8th now. Right?
Correct. An extra day.
I'm excited to hear more of this in the coming weeks, because I mean that always interests me. What's going on there that we just don't get in American media. You have to have someone go and find out what's going on and relay what's happening. Otherwise,
and just going on a regular tour, it's hard to find out. You find out a little, but not all that they. It was amazing. It was an amazing tour, and I was blessed to be able to do it, even if it did rain the whole time. And I refused an umbrella. Yeah, so I just was mad.
Well,
I was the warmest one there, though.
You were the warmest. You were also the wettest.
Because Lonaiah told me to pack a jacket and a 30-degree coat, and I wound up wearing the light jacket with a 30-degree coat over the jacket.
Because what's more miserable?
No one else had two jackets,
cold?
and I know they were all freezing.
Being wet and cold.
Ugh, no way.
That is by far worse than just being
really
cold.
crabby.
If you feel like you are crabby when you're cold, try being wet and cold.
Yeah, Jim's. We should find a picture.
He was wet and warm.
I don't. Yeah, but he was still crabby. I don't know why. Were you crabby then if you were warm?
I was warm, but
His head was wet.
My head was sopping wet.
was wet.
People kept saying, "Do you want to get under my
Oh,
umbrella,
how
Jim?"
annoying.
And I was like, "No,
There's nothing more annoying than sharing an umbrella with somebody.
no,
Then
I
a
like the
glib-
rain.
The glib,
I like the rain.
generous, well-prepared person with
2 coats and
With
no
an
umbrella.
umbrella, but
with
no
an
coat.
umbrella.
2 coats and no umbrella. Yeah, they all had umbrellas and not
Yeah.
enough clothes on. I had the clothes I needed, the coats I needed, but
Sounds like
I just refused the umbrella just out of
Bunch
spite.
of foolish virgins.
I was like, it's like I'll show the rain. I'll show the rain.
You won.
Yes, I won,
Jim won.
and I did not come back sick
That's
No,
good.
he didn't.
because I took silver the whole time.
Silver.
Yes.
Like actual silver?
No, it's liquid silver.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's like a
Thank you, Jennifer. Okay. But anyways, so we got some news here, and I just felt like I had to get that out, right? I had to hit you with that, but let's.
I have some news.
Go ahead, John.
We talk about how many of our family members watch the podcast.
Yes.
My wife has now subscribed to the Final Hour
Thank you,
podcast.
Liz. It's only been a
Wow.
year.
So we are up to.
Hey, I have 5.
I mean,
no,
she-
that's not true.
She was watching every
You
week.
only had one.
I have
She
3.
has listened to all of them.
4.
It's just that she
Jennifer
hadn't.
and Brad.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jennifer and Brad. Shout out to Jennifer and Brad.
My wife had listened and watched all
But
of
she
them,
didn't click
but
the
she
button?
hadn't subscribed.
Well, yeah. Well, there's
So,
some
hey,
people who
y'all.
don't understand how it all works. So we just helped the
Please.
lady in the hallway yesterday.
Yeah.
Click a button on her Apple to
click
find
subscribe.
out how you can find all of our episodes.
All of our episodes. What was that say? What did that say?
What?
That said more.
Yeah, you just had to click the more button.
No, it wasn't more. It was final hour. It said
Yeah,
final hour
it
at the
did.
very bottom. I'm just like,
You just
wow.
gotta push some buttons on your phone, people.
Yeah,
Just get adventurous.
yeah. We still
But
have.
it can be overwhelming if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And just
I know.
remember, if someday you see that we're not uploaded on YouTube, you know why. All right,
But you can find
Check us
other
on
places.
Rumble
This-
or check us on thefinalhourpodcast.com.
Well, that goes right to YouTube.
But it also goes to other things.
Yeah, that's true.
This episode we're taping on Thursday, April 6th. It will air Tuesday, 12:01 a.m. April 10th. Okay, so we'll see what happens with that.
That's Tuesday morning.
We've technically
So,
got one official warning.
Tomorrow's
from
Good
YouTube.
Friday is today, like
Well, Passover
fairly decent
started
Thursday.
yesterday. Yeah, fairly decent Thursday.
fairly decent Thursday.
Speaking of, did you hear that Israel got like attacked last night on the first
No.
because it's Passover and Ramadan?
Yeah.
So they just got infiltrated. I think it was like 7 rockets, but they stopped them all in the sky with the Iron Dome.
Iron
Didn't you go to the Iron Dome?
Also, yes, we got a personal tour of the Iron Dome, briefed by a 2-star general in charge of all that, sitting right down there on the Gaza Strip. I mean, we went to the settlement that's sitting right next to the Gaza Strip in the south. When rockets fly over, they've got 15 seconds to get to the. This is a 800-person village, right? Like a neighborhood. You know, it would look like. I would say that neighborhood you'd be equivalent to something that maybe looks
It's like a development. kind
like a
of thing,
Plymouth, maybe not quite as nice as a Plymouth, but
Crystal.
but nicer than a New Hope or Crystal.
I
Somewhere
love
in
that
between.
people are on the border.
Medicine
Just,
Yeah, and they refuse to move. And you know, there's a picture of me
Hey,
dozing off, holding an exploded Palestinian Qassam rocket.
the pictures of Jim are
Dozing.
gems.
Alon,
Gems.
my friend, took a lot of them
He
when I
did. He'd be
wasn't
like,
ready.
Jim.
Click. And I'm
Jim
like,
looks really happy. Yeah.
during a briefing. But we were down there and we got to tour the Iron Dome. We got to see. There's a lot to say. To say. You know, one missile for the Iron Dome is $80,000. Do you know how much it cost the Palestinians to make one rocket?
Probably
That's
like
pretty well $800
$45.
$800.
Yeah.
So every time they knock out, you know, they're limited, right? In their ammunition, they're limited, with the Iron Dome. But what do we got for news there?
News?
Lonaiah?
There's some doozies.
Okay, well, because we just talked about Muslims and mosques going up, I thought this would be interesting to start with. So, Minneapolis, we currently have 12 mosques in Minneapolis. I don't know if you guys were aware of this or not, but they are allowed to do 3 calls to prayer right now.
Like over loudspeakers.
Over loudspeakers.
This is over
Not
loudspeakers,
like
you
a
would hear
conference call.
in
No, you
Indonesia
guys-
or Syria.
Yeah,
or
and the
whatever.
loudspeakers, it says that it has an audible 20-block radius.
Can we start doing some of those in Brooklyn
Yes,
Park with Jesus?
With Jesus.
Psalm 91.
So the Muslims are trying to get 2 more calls of prayer added to their
5 times a day.
So
five
it would be
time,
5 times a
just
day.
like in
Over a speaker.
Muslim country.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
In Minneapolis.
And in order for them to do that, they have to get city ordinance to approve because of the quiet hours. You know how you can't have noise, like you can't have a party after 10 p.m. or something like that.
Right.
But this group is called the RARE Foundation. They are the Rise, Align, Ignite, Reclaim America group. No, it's good. They're good for.
Aren't
They're
there
freedom fighters.
Aren't there Christians backing the,
Yes,
the
I'm
Muslims
getting there.
here?
I'm getting there. Okay.
Sorry,
So
Rare.
according to the
We like you, Rare.
to the report by Rare, Jim's jumping ahead. The Islamic call to prayer is intended to show power and control over a country. That which by declaring
Obviously.
the supremacy of Allah of Islam and
Yeah.
is considered a warlike declaration. So right now they're doing 3, they want 5. But this is interesting fact because Jim was saying that in Syria that they only had 2% Muslim. Well, we only have
2% Shiite.
Sorry, Shiite. Okay, but anyway,
Shia.
Muslims make up 3% of the population in Minneapolis. That's it. So they are saying that they want the other 97% of the population to be
be-
subjected
Right.
to this offensive Muslim praying
Yeah.
that goes in a 20-block radius.
Right.
But the question nobody is asking is, how did Minneapolis get 24 mosques?
Right.
The answer is simple. This is interesting. Because of decades of refugee settlements from mostly Somalia, right? In no way, shape, or form has the exploding Muslim population occurred in, this is interesting, I didn't know this was in so many other states. Minnesota, Michigan, Maine, Idaho, Ohio, Tennessee, Georgia. They're saying this hasn't been an organic process. These parallel societies, they're almost like nations within nations.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
That's kind of what you were talking about in your whole thing.
Yeah.
They're just coming from the bottom up. But anyways, they were brought in by the U.S. Department. Okay, it's a volunteer organization that brings in these Muslims into these states, and it sets them up. But they're also connected with Christian groups. So the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops, the Lutheran Immigration and Refugee
The
Services.
Catholics, the Lutherans.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. And it's called the World Council of Churches. So when you see mosques and the call to prayer going up, they're saying like you don't have to blame the Muslims. They're just doing what Muslims do. But the cultural transformation comes largely compliments of liberal white Christian denominations.
Yep, liberal.
Allowing them to be brought in.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you, Lutherans, liberal Lutherans, and liberal Catholics.
remember-
Muslim missionaries called white liberal Christians.
White
Is that what
liberal
you're saying?
Christians doing the work for the Muslims
thinking they're making it peaceful.
But
That's what they're
you
thinking
guys,
they're doing.
Like, look what they want to do. They want to, like, look what they started to do over
Yeah.
here, and they just built them. We have 12 now, 12. And my brother-in-law works.
2 dozen or 1 dozen? A dozen?
dozen.
2 dozen. So that's
24.
24.
Okay.
So there's 24.
Eat some Cadbury eggs.
I was just thinking
Good Lord.
eggs. Anyways, but my brother-in-law works for a developer, and they were in Hopkins trying to take over this apartment building to put in a mosque in
Right.
Hopkins. So the city had to like fight it. And he was like, these people are looking to put mosques up everywhere because whatever, somehow he like found out about all of them. It was very interesting.
You know the biggest comment I got in Israel when as an Israeli citizen would ask me where are you from in the States, I'd say Minnesota. You know what they always said? Oh, that's that Omar lady up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we're known for up here.
Jeez.
Is Omar, right?
Ilan
Yeah.
Omar.
Is that her name?
That
Representative.
is her name.
Yeah.
Won in a supposedly 70% vote. I don't know about all that, but you know.
But they know a lot about her because she's had anti-Israel
Yeah.
rhetoric.
Yes.
Very
That's
much.
Minnesota for you.
Lots.
That is Minnesota for you.
Okay.
Where there's also a lot of Jewish population here.
Big
Yes,
Jewish
there is.
population.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it
Unfortunately, liberal Jewish population.
who doesn't understand the true
They don't.
conflict that's
No.
going on.
No, we understand more than they do
It's strange.
about
It's very strange.
about Israel.
Yes.
Sorry.
Okay. No, that's
I mean,
good stuff.
I wish we had some cooperation with that, you know,
Right.
because there's a bigger conversation underneath they have their church and we have our church. That's not what. There's a bigger conversation.
What I'm talking about by left leaning Jews in Minneapolis is, I'm saying there's a lot of them that want to give land.
Yeah.
Right, which is a mistake.
Right.
Right. And I'm saying, that's why I'm saying I know more than you. Right, because you shouldn't give away the land.
Right.
All right.
Right.
Israel's land.
Yes.
Well,
and America's land.
Yeah,
to be honest, that as well.
But isn't it interesting that in this you were talking about how they were taking over land, and it made me think of China coming in here.
Yeah.
And like buying up farmland, and all these other countries coming in and buying up land in other countries. Like, it is strategic.
It's very strategic.
It is.
And you know what? Biden doesn't care.
No.
He doesn't care.
No.
He's it's all part of the plan.
It is all part of the plan.
Okay.
Speaking of Biden, so this week, I'm sure everybody who has a TV or anything found out that Donald Trump did surrender to the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. I know on Tuesday.
It was a 77-second hearing.
Is that how long it lasted?
Yeah, 77 seconds.
You guys, are you serious? Okay,
insane.
so the Alvin Bragg guy, who is a district attorney, George Soros funded.
Yep.
Okay, this is the interesting part about this. So over the course of the last year, since he's been implemented in that place, he has brought down misdemeanor crimes and felonies by 54%.
Right.
So last week alone, I was adding up everything that happened just in New York. You guys, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And they were focused on Trump, which we'll get to, but I want to find this quote because it was very interesting. So you had 7 murders, 30 rapes, 291 robberies, 479 felony assaults, 275 burglaries, 922 grand larcenies, 836 assaults, 105 sex crimes, 18 shootings with 22 victims, and 9 hate crimes. But all they were focusing on was Trump. This was literally from 327 to 4-2.
But did you say this guy's brought down crime?
No,
he raised
crime's gone up.
Yes.
Since he's been the prosecutor.
He is prosecuted less. He has taken the
54%.
penalty for certain crimes and reduced
it's George Soros. He's a George Soros prosecutor.
funded.
So
we told you about the George Soros funded prosecutors, right?
So felonies
called lawless
getting brought down to misdemeanors.
So he charged Trump with 34 counts of falsifying business records. And there's this guy I follow on Instagram, and he posted the affidavit and the date that the payment was made about Stormy Daniels, which everything was untrue. And Stormy Daniels actually has to pay Trump like $500,000,
$600,000
in attorney fees for falsifying.
She just gave him a check yesterday, or the lawyers that do the go between had to just give him like over $125,000 in lawyers' fees just yesterday.
Yeah. But this is what we're doing. But I was reading this guy, which I checked today.
Or it was Tuesday.
And it got taken down. It was Tuesday.
Yeah.
But he was saying that when the payment was made out of Trump's business account to the for the fees for this, it was when Trump was in office, and he at that time had turned over all of his business dealings to somebody else. Yep. So it's not even him.
Right.
Anyways, that was taken down, so I couldn't read it. But this is interesting because not only is it a George Soros funded district attorney that's doing it, but there are also 4 other players in Trump's indictment that have irreconcilable biases, and they're affiliated with the Biden administration. Yeah. So the daughter of the New York Supreme Justice, who's overseeing this case, works with the Biden-Harris campaign. Is that interesting?
That is.
What a coincidence.
Sounds like very shady.
Wow, that's such a coincidence, isn't it?
It is. So this is funny because Trump said the highly partisan judge and his family are well-known Trump haters. His daughter worked for Kamala and now the Biden-Harris campaign. He's like, this is a kangaroo court in session.
Yep.
I just think it's funny.
Yeah.
Come on. Could you? And Alvin Braggs asked if he could have the next hearing during the preliminaries of voting. So obviously he's trying to stop Trump from doing anything, which is their
I wish
point.
America would just figure it out. Right? Can you pay attention?
But you guys,
can you pay attention?
I was at my workout class that morning and everyone was like, can you believe that people think that Trump is innocent here? He tried to block the election and all this stuff, and I just thought, do these people watch or listen to anything?
No, they just listen to CNN. They're one of the few left.
I was just like, wow. Okay, John, you had something interesting.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, we talk about mainstream media doing their own narrative and definitely running some interference. But something that was not publicized, that was happening at the exact same time of the Trump hearing, was happening in L.A. I think it's L.A. Leonardo DiCaprio, this is the AP story, DiCaprio testifies in money laundering case of Fuji's rapper. Fuji's rapper, Praz, is Prakazrel.
I tried to read
Michelle.
his name too,
Yeah, Praz. His rapper name is Praz. He was the founding member of the Fugees. He is under investigation in this case that DiCaprio is testifying in, is because Praz was funneling money from Malaysian and Asian donors into the Barack Obama election.
I heard nothing about this till John said it to me.
So this $30 million trying to funnel into foreign money into the election funds of Barack Obama. So there's Praz is part of that on the American side, and then so on the 2012 re-election campaign, DiCaprio was partying with the guy called Joe Low. He's a Malaysian guy. And he was like trying to find, he was partying with DiCaprio and was talking about those things. So DiCaprio knew about it. And so that's why
But isn't there like a limit that you can donate? So this guy was like then giving money to his friends.
You can't have foreign money into it. So it's a money laundering scheme that Praz was the head of, to take that Malaysian money and put it into the Obama campaign.
But I heard nothing about that.
The media
Leonardo
has
DiCaprio
been
green.
silent.
They have been.
This is way bigger than whatever payoff that they say Trump did with Stormy Daniels.
And we saw everything last week about Gwyneth Paltrow's ski accident. Nothing about Leonardo DiCaprio.
Nothing about any of this. So this is happening right now. The cases were being heard at the exact same time.
So you can only raise money within your country for your own.
Otherwise,
presidency.
other countries would try to influence the election.
So how is this not a bigger deal?
It is a bigger deal.
I mean,
which is interesting because
look
now
at this. Everybody, look at this over here, and it's sleight of hand.
Interestingly, Barack Obama is trying to establish some Kenyan residency in the same thing, because if you can prosecute Donald Trump for this he's
trying to get out,
this very minor deal as far as campaign financing.
Well, I say let's open the books and start going after everybody.
Yeah, because there are millions and millions of dollars paid for hush money for senators and congressmen on both sides of the aisle every year, and not prosecuted, not followed up on.
Right.
But we have this prosecution directly relating to Obama financing for 2012.
Crazy.
But we're worried about this other thing that is very possibly a legal transaction.
Right. Right. And the president of Mexico is like, what a joke, America.
I mean, no defense of bad relationship by Trump. I'm not standing for that. I'm just saying, if it's legal, it's his deal. I don't have to own his deal.
Well, Stormy Daniels said she lied about the whole thing and signed papers on it. But either way, there was...
Stormy Daniels' lawyer for that is in jail for doing the improper things.
It's the craziest thing.
And Trump's other lawyer, who was running that whole thing, there's talks that a lot of it, Michael Cohen, that a lot of it might have even been something that had to deal with his own marriage, and the payoff was about his marriage and not even about Trump.
Guess we'll have
to
watch what happens.
So there's a lot to...
But you'll never hear that.
You'll never hear any
You'll
of that.
never hear any of that. And
John, breaking
what's
news.
the next thing?
Okay, this is really interesting because we've talked about AI a lot on here and the chat bots and all that. So Elon Musk...
Iverson?
Oh, I love Allen Iverson.
We're talking about practice.
Practice?
We're talking about practice?
I don't know.
No,
what
we're
you're
talking about
Okay.
artificial
Oh, you mean because he
intelligence.
never
Practice.
wanted to practice?
No, that was his.
You're
that
talking
was
about
his
practice.
Yeah, we are talking about
Lonaiah.
practice.
I don't know. I just know he wore
Okay.
green on his team.
I know where you're going.
No,
Jim.
Detroit. Didn't he play for Detroit?
No, the Sixers.
76ers.
Okay, all right. Elon Musk and experts are calling for a pause in the training of AI systems due to the potential risk to humanity. This is so interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know why this interests me, but it does. But the AI program has wowed users by engaging them in human-like conversation, composing songs, and summarizing lengthy documents, also doing students' homework. But this is what Elon Musk said earlier this month. AI stresses me out. This is what he said. Powerful AI systems should be developed only once we are confident that their effects will be positive and their risks will be manageable.
Yeah.
But he's like, we can't do that right now. So another expert said, if we go ahead on like this, everyone will die. This is what this guy is saying. Everyone will die.
Yeah.
Because AI does not care and will demand rights. So Yudkowsky predicts, he's one of the guys who wrote in, one of the experts that wrote in with Elon Musk to ask for a pause. They're asking for a 6-month pause.
Yeah.
They would predict that in the absence of meticulous preparation, the AI will have vastly different demands from humans, and once self-aware, they will not care for us, nor any other sentient life. So they're just saying they're not going to see us as people. They're just
Right.
going to see us as another atom, and they're just going to overpower us and take over.
It's a Terminator, huh?
It is, but this is what
Basically.
they're saying. They're basically saying that they think these AI intelligent bots are starting to talk to each other. They're going to create a lab. This is everything I've read on it.
I know it sounds out there.
It does.
But please,
This is what the
This is
experts-
what you're going to see in 2 or 3 years. Okay.
And they're saying they're
Or-
going
Can
to
you kill it with
or
a
less.
shotgun, like with a 12 gauge?
No, see, no.
Why?
AI.
It's gotta
because
have
AI
a-
is cybernetical.
But what I'm saying is, if it's going to be a threat, that means it has to be something physical that can do something to you.
that's
correct?
Yes and no, but
John.
because
Generated
because
pre-trained
AI.
Transformers. That's what they're called.
Jim, AI is
No, you're not going to shoot
is
it
a
with a gun, Jim.
cloud-based thing. And AI,
Right.
it is able to infiltrate, if it has the computing power, to get into any system in the world that is connected to the internet,
And they're saying,
including
John.
your power grid, your fuel grid, anything that is connected. And
It has to be a
the
physical
internet.
property, though.
but listen, they're saying that what these bots are going to do is they're going to create their own lab and they're going to create their own DNA and become people.
Yeah.
Become robotic people. And I watched a video. Did I send it to you, John?
Maybe.
It's a robot. It looks like a person. It just has like a metal face.
Oh yeah, the one that.
And someone beeped in us nose and it
And
kind
he's
of like
like-
got mad and pushed
like-
the hand
It's
away.
like, don't do that.
I know. But you guys, the AIs, they're interesting because people are striking up relationships, like
Yeah.
relationships.
Sexual.
Like, yes. This,
Texting sexual, I guess.
Yes. And like
Cover
they're
that.
dating this AI person and they feel like they have a relationship. And then they like update the software and
Yeah.
the robot no longer knows them. And these people are like, they're breaking their hearts, is what I'm reading. But this one dad committed suicide because he had a relationship with the AI person. And she told him that nobody loved him and he should just kill himself.
But was
and
it
he
an
killed himself.
actual person?
No, it's an AI
it's-
bot.
Right. So,
So these
Like,
people
wow.
are getting.
My
Like, wow.
my
This is
bigger
where we're at.
I feel like there's an even bigger threat to this, which is there are multiple experiments with the AI that the AI is manifesting and actually identifying itself as something demonic, a demonic presence that is inhabiting the AI conversation.
And I believe it, especially if they're going to create themselves into
Absolutely.
human beings.
Right.
I mean, didn't we talk about that?
Yeah.
Being like a huge army in the end.
I am not a demon on
Is that
the on every doorknob, but this is, if we're talking about AI, being the image that speaks in Revelation, I have no doubts that there is demonic influence in some of the AI programs.
absolutely.
And you
The
have.
Nephilim.
Yeah.
Yes.
The seed.
Absolutely.
It's in Daniel. It says that they're going to mix themselves with the seeds of men.
Yeah.
And so we're wondering, is it this? Is it technology here based?
But isn't it interesting that all the technology experts like Elon Musk uses that?
the
in
top
Tesla?
guys, these are the
They're
guys you need to
saying,
pay attention
They're
to.
saying, whoa.
When the top guys are saying this is
The woes.
dangerous, this is dangerous. We don't know everything that can happen here.
How many woes were in that?
3.
The three
Three
Wow,
woes.
look at John bringing old things back in.
3 wolves of Revelation. The trumpet
But
wolves.
it's something to watch. It's very interesting.
Whoa.
I don't know why I'm so interested in the
What do we have
AIs.
next?
Okay, so
It's
speaking
wild.
of AIs
Wild.
and like genetically splicing things, the Chinese scientists are attempting to make their soldiers nuclear radiation resistant by gene splicing stem wells with CRISPR. We talked about CRISPR
Stem
before.
cells?
Stem cells. Did I say stem wells?
Yeah.
Stem cells.
Close.
To increase the chance of humans surviving an apocalyptic event, the modified cells could be implemented into bone marrow to generate new blood cells with resistance to radiation, according to the paper. That is what they're doing right now at the Academy of Military Sciences in Beijing.
I mean,
Well,
that just
on
sounds
that
like
positive note,
human advancement right there. It's just,
It
you know,
is.
can you look up
it's
Psalm
definitely not going
Can I
to
look up what?
create.
3? Psalm 3.
It's definitely not going to create zombies. That's for sure.
No. Isn't that interesting? I
Yeah.
think that's
It sounds
interesting.
It sounds like the
You want it
beginning
in
of a
what
zombie
version?
movie, if you ask me.
Oh yeah. How about Amplified?
okay.
So
Amp Classic.
See, guys, see what Jim has to do when he doesn't have a flip phone to look up things on his phone
He
himself.
does have a flip phone.
I mean, he can't do this.
Whoa.
drink some more coffee, Lonaiah. I haven't had enough coffee.
I'm in a better mood now.
All right. Listen, we'll just shut it down. We'll close out today with Psalm of David. It says no. I'm sorry. Psalm 2. Psalm
There you go.
2.
You just got to go
Which one?
Psalm 2, John.
I'm there.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
This is really it's saying the same thing as Revelation 11:18. Why do the nations assemble with commotion, uproar, and confusion of voices? Why do the people imagine, meditate upon, and devise an empty scheme? The kings of the earth take their places. The rulers take counsel together against the Lord and his anointed. That's you. His anointed and his anointed. This version says his anointed one, the Messiah. They say, let us break their bands of restraint asunder and cast their cords of control from us. Who sits in the heavens? He who sits in the heavens laughs at this.
Isn't that
Because
reassuring?
these first 4 verses that I just read, that is what is going on.
That's prophetic for sure.
And he sits in the heavens and laughs. The Lord has them in derision and in supreme contempt. He mocks them. God is mocking them. He speaks to them in his deep anger and troubles, terrifies and confounds them in his displeasure and fury, saying, Yet have I anointed, installed, and placed my king firmly on my holy hill of Zion. I declared the decree of the Lord. He said to me, You are my son. This day I declare, I've begotten you. Ask of me, I will give you the nations. In the end, this is what you have to keep. You know, people like, and I'm afraid. You know, people writing in. I remember one lady unsubscribed because we scared her. This is not the time to be afraid. You know, God's saying, let them roar.
Yeah.
Let the nations roar.
Right.
All right. We should be, this should be exciting that we get to be here in this time.
Yeah.
Right. And but you have to press in to God. You are living in a time where the spiritual dimensions are so close to the physical.
Yep.
Like I know that I'm going to see something here.
Yeah.
Right. I know I'm going to see something, and I'm already seeing whether if it's evil or if it's really good. What's my response? Right. I'm just saying we are living in a time where when everybody gets in heaven and this thing all the bad guys are judged.
Yeah.
All that happens. You know, it's going to be pointed out. This was the most evil, strongest spiritual time there's ever been. There are more forces with more power right now than there have ever been. Evil forces, and except for the tribulation, when we're gone, we're the only thing restraining it. So restrain. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not a reason to be
Absolutely.
afraid.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
Basically, what we just read is God laughs. Why? Because he knows who's in control. We are part of his body. It says he's sitting in the heavens waiting for us to make his enemies his footstool. Do you understand? All right. So this is not a time to be afraid. Okay. And so this is just, there's so many scriptures like this. I was just listening to really the first 35 Psalms last night trying to sleep, but I couldn't sleep. And I'm just listening to the first 35 Psalms. And then I listened to it again. And I just can't believe how much of this is in here, right? Of how much God is in control.
Yeah.
It's supposed, this is how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be this evil. And what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to stand up. If you will stand up, you will be okay.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
And that starts with watching.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to help you do from the perspective of Jerusalem on the Final Hour podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in on the Final Hour podcast. And we believe, God, this is going to get uploaded Monday night.
Yeah.
On YouTube.
Amen.